the leadership and staff of Drugs Africana, other invited guests, students and staff from the various schools. It's a great pleasure and honor for us to be here at this second Prefects Conference. I want to take the opportunity also to welcome you to this very important activity. I must also appreciate Drugs Africana for the effort in bringing you together, because this is something that we really need as a country. I know we don't have a lot of time. I will be brief. I will start, just set the climate, then my colleagues will come in. Today, I think some of you might already know that we are in a week where we usually observe the International Day Against Drug Abuse. Does anybody know which day it falls? International Day Against Drug Abuse. No one, or you are still cold, you don't want to talk. Yes. Very good, thank you. A clap for her. So 26th of June every year is International Day Against Drug Abuse. It's a day we use many times to educate ourselves about drugs, to see what is happening, and to lay strategies for prevention. So I'm glad that Drugs Africana has started us off in these many activities that are going to take place or that are already taking place in this week. Next week, the UN will be launching what we call the World Drug Report, a report that tells us the status of drugs in the entire world. The one of last year was released, 2022, and what came up was not very pleasing. It was clearly indicating that drug abuse the world over is on the increase. A lot more people were found to be using drugs. But what was particularly worrying for us, and the reason I'm happy about this meeting, is that it was discovered the biggest percentage of people using drugs are the youth, the young people. The age group 17 to 24, they were the biggest culprits. But that was closely followed by 24 to 35. So you see all the same that the majority of people on the globe getting afflicted by drug abuse are young people. People that we should be depending on for the development of our country. So that's the reason we are concerned, and the reason I'm happy that you young people are here so that we can talk to you and you start taking action so you don't join those big groups that are on drugs. And of course, the other thing that was found out previously was that it's not that only that the young people, a lot of them are using drugs, but they are also using them more dangerously than the previous generations. So they are using more drugs, a bigger variety, and in a more dangerous manner. So that wasn't good news for the previous year. We hope some actions have been taken and that we wait to hear what is happening next. But you also know what is happening. I know you'll be sharing what is on in your schools. The other thing that we saw was that you know about the drugs, the names and so on, which I won't go into. But they found that cannabis, I don't know what names you call it in your schools, but the scientific name is cannabis sativa. The local name is enjaga, but you'll tell us which other names you have in your schools. It's the most commonly abused narcotic the world over. By narcotic, we mean a drug that exists illegally, because there are other drugs that exist that maybe we allow people to use. But those that are there but you must never use, we call them the narcotics. So if you are found using or in possession of, then you are committing crime. So of those drugs, cannabis was the number one substance disturbing people, disturbing the young people, and responsible for those that are in hospital. Of course, the difference between when you add the others, there are those ones sometimes we say are legally acceptable, then we include things like alcohol, because alcohol is a problem, although the law allows some people to take it if they are of age, but also to take it in a manner that is acceptable. So when we add those ones, then we also see a lot of people largely on alcohol and also getting a lot of problems from that. So our session this morning, we are largely looking at the effects, the complications that come out of these very many substances that exist on the market. Now, these drugs that we are talking about, we shall make a distinction that we are not talking about all types of drugs, because there are drugs that are useful. But we are talking about those drugs that cause harm, and we have a special name for them. I don't know if I should mention this, but I don't want to disturb you with a lot of terms, but we call them psychotropic substances. Psychotropic substances. That means that you take them into your body and they go largely to work on the brain. And when they reach the brain, subsequently, they affect the way you think, they affect your behavior, and they also affect your perception. So those three areas are what cause you trouble. And of course, the other thing for you to remember is that they don't just stop there. Because they are working on the brain, they start to disturb your brain such that you are forced to use them repeatedly. What we call getting addicted. So you use them 1, 2, 3 times, and you eventually find you cannot stop using them. You cannot do without them. So that means you have got addicted to them. Each time you wake up in the day, you are thinking about that drug. You spend a lot of your time thinking about it or looking for it and so on and so forth, so you are addicted. So these are the substances that we are concerned about today, that we want you to be careful about. We shall be sharing the names because of the time. I may not personally go into the list of these drugs, but scientifically we divide them usually into 3 groups. There are those that damp or reduce brain function. Then there are those that cause a bit of stimulation. Somebody uses them and gets a little excited. Then there are those that totally disorganize the person or the brain, what we call the hallucinogen. So there are drugs in those 3 categories, which probably my colleagues will also be sharing. But it would be nice for us to hear from you first, so that we see how much you know about this, then we shall be talking more about them. So the effects are many, and this is the reason we are concerned. This is the reason we say, please don't start using these drugs. We don't want you to start them because they are harmful. They cause a lot of harm once you've started using them. They cause death, they cause injuries, and a lot of other problems. I will just quickly use one example because, well, generally speaking, some of the effects are shared, they are related, but there are also those that are specifically caused by certain others. Now, if we take one of those chemicals like alcohol, alcohol is one of those very, very difficult psychoactive agents. When you take alcohol, it will cause a lot of effects. There are those that come soon after you've taken it. There are those come after you've taken it for a long time. The ones that come shortly after you've taken it, I know some of you know, you've seen people that have taken a lot of alcohol. You've seen how they behave. You've seen how they respond to certain things, because alcohol has gone to the body and to the brain and has disorganized the mind. The thinking is totally disturbed. The walking is disturbed. Anybody knows how they walk? The people that have taken out of alcohol? Anybody has seen them staggering on the roads? Yes. So those are effects of the drugs that, because the alcohol would have gone to the brain, and the other drugs also do the same, and they cause similar effects. And because of that, of course, they can be exposed to a lot of other dangers. You can imagine somebody who is heavily drunk and is like riding a boda. What will happen? And they prone to accidents? Yes, and we are getting a lot of people getting admitted because they were riding or driving or walking under the influence of alcohol. So those are acute effects that come in the short term. But that's not all. There are many others. But again, there is a person that you will see has been drinking alcohol for years, 4, 5, 6 years, you know, and the effects we say follow chronic use. There are effects that follow chronic use, and these are also very disturbing. There are many. A chemical like alcohol will almost every part of your body that you look at can be affected by chronic use of alcohol. The brain gets completely disturbed. You can develop an illness where your memory is almost completely gone, what we call the dementia. Somebody cannot retain anything he has put into the brain, cannot recall anything. That's a common effect of chronic use of alcohol, you know. Some people develop a disease where they start fainting, you know. Epilepsy, like anybody knows about epilepsy? Has heard about a disease, epilepsy? Somebody just collapses and faints. It can cause those kinds of effects. So the brain is a common target. There are many other complications that arise within the brain. But the other parts of the body, the mouth and the intestines also get a lot of harm. Cancers are very common, especially of the throat and the stomach. Ulcers disturb them a lot, you know. The liver gets disturbed. One of the key organs within to be affected by alcohol is the liver. because the liver, as you know, is an organ that helps us to clean up the blood. And you can imagine if you are taking a lot of alcohol and the liver is all the time struggling to clean up your body of the alcohol, so it gets a lot of injury and it will fail to function. It will fail, so a lot of people get liver damage and the cause of their death, and sometimes even cancer of the liver. The lungs too get affected, the reproductive organs get affected. A lot of people can't even have children, they can't have babies, you know. So like I was saying, almost every part of the body that you think about within will be harmed by chronic and heavy use of alcohol. But like I was saying before, all these other drugs that you are going to tell us about that people are using out there in the schools, in the communities, they also cause a lot of harm. They also cause a lot of harm. But now I've only briefly touched the physical effects of the bodies. But the effects are not always physical. They are also the social effects of these substances. And for you, for example, we get concerned about the fact that a lot of young people are dropping out of school because of use of alcohol and drugs. So dropping out of school is a common complication which we don't want. It starts slowly. A person begins by experimenting with the drugs. They eventually get addicted, like I said. They start by missing classes, poor performance, and eventually they are out of school. So we don't want anybody to drop out of school. Once you join S1, we expect you to go really up to the end and not really drop out because you have got to using some of these substances. They are also responsible for a lot of violence in our communities. People are fighting in the homes, in bars and everywhere. So violence is another common effect that we don't want to see. When people are on these various substances, alcohol or other drugs, the productivity also goes down. They can't perform, they can't function. No? Whether they are teachers, they will not properly teach. They are accountants, they will not do the work well. They are doctors, they will not be able to see patients. Certainly, I don't think you would be comfortable appearing as a patient before a doctor that is using alcohol, a lot of alcohol or drugs, because they may not even know what to give, how to help you. So besides, for you students, we talked about dropping out of school, but for the bigger people, they drop out of job. So they cannot work, they cannot make money, they cannot contribute to national development. And yes, we all exist to be able to develop our countries. So some of these are the social effects that come. But finally, I can't also forget the fact that you may be wondering, why is the panel here mainly of people from Butavika, even somebody who has just joined, she will be introduced later. She's a mental health worker. She's our leader at the Ministry of Health in mental health. So why? Because also these drugs taken for a long time cause a lot of mental health challenges. They cause a lot of mental health problems. You'll be told that over 40% of people admitted in Butavika Hospital are using, it's because of use of alcohol and other drugs. So these drugs, when you start taking them, I told you they go to work on the brain and they cause a lot of mental health challenges. You can get depressed, and when you get depressed, that's a mental health condition. You will be lucky if you survive, but severe depression Does anybody know what severe depression leads to? Yes? Suicide, yes. If you get severely depressed and you don't get help in time, you end up hanging yourself. You've seen people, we've also seen students hanging themselves, you know. Butabika is there waiting for those of you that will not heed. That will not heed. So, as leaders in schools, we shall be happy that you keep these messages going to your friends, because some of the young people start using these drugs because they are not aware of the possible consequences. So when you make them aware as leaders of your friends, then you will do a good job in supporting them, in preventing them from getting to that. So thank you for listening to me. I think we shall now start kind of interactive session with my colleagues. I hope that initial kind of climate setting will be helpful for you as we begin our discussions. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We are highly appreciative. This is so very important.